try it again.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's Tipple's Brews and Wines virtual wine tasting with Elizabeth and Jeff Vaudrey, owners of Tipple's Brews and Wines in Gainesville, Florida. This week, we are going to the Willamette Valley in Oregon, and we're going to be enjoying the Cove Willamette Valley Pinot Noir. All right. So if you've not already done so, go ahead and pop that bottle open. I like to chill mine down to cellar temperature just to start the evening. It doesn't make a huge difference in there, but I like to start as close to old world original as possible. So I start around 60 degrees, maybe 55. 30 minutes in the fridge will get you there. So if you'll pull up the first slide for me.
Sure.
Thank you. All right. So like I said, the Cove Willamette Valley Pinot Noir, ratings James Suckling 91, Wine Enthusiast 90. So they have it up in the outstanding category. We will see if you all agree and if we agree. Food pairings: salmon Rockefeller, bacon and cheese stuffed portobello mushrooms, roast zucchini and squash with blue cheese. Now this is Pinot, it will always go with, but I like to try to, shake things up. It can go with duck, obviously. This guy's big enough that could go with a lean steak, something like a filet mignon.
And we are actually having it paired well tonight. I mean, not well during the taste or during the recording, but right. We're actually doing salmon with it's baby bella mushrooms, and peppers. Yeah,
it's gonna be perfect. It should be absolutely fantastic. So let us get started here. You can take the slide down if you would.
Okay.
For you and for me. Bigger pour than for you because I control the bottle. So this guy's 100% Pinot Noir. Alcohol content 13.5%. We always go into aging potential on this guy up to 10 years. So nice acid on this guy, freshness of fruit, and ABV is a good amount. Not a ton of tannin, so that one's kind of a not adding to the ageability, but the other two make it an easy 10-year age. It could probably go a little further, but an easy 10, let's say that, right? And, oh boy, that smells pretty.
So we're at the very beginning then, right? That says 2020.
This is 2020, yeah, so the big thing is, so you look into it and say, all right, so it's 2020, can it be consumed right away and aged? Mm-hmm. I think we'll assess that tonight, but I do think you will find this is a wine that is ready right away, and it could put a little age on it. Very bright and vibrant. I'm getting lots of raspberry and cherry, and there's like a pretty floral note coming up in there, almost like a cherry blossom. I heard it described as violet.
Yeah, I could see floral.
But yeah, I definitely get a floral note.
Chris says cherry forward, a little smoky, a little floral. Mm-hmm.
And I'd say some anise on there, on the nose anyway. A little bit of a licoricey quality. Just a touch, and maybe some clove. A little darker, a little more classic, well-made Pinot Noir on the palate. Mm-hmm. So there I'm getting a little bit to go with those other notes, almost a bit of an earthiness, maybe clay.
I'm getting like prickles too on my tongue, like tiny little prickles, so small tannins.
Small tannins, but I would say that the tannins are enhanced because they are fairly subtle with the acidity, because it's playing with them to kind of liven up your palate. And there's a spicy, peppery note to this wine, which is all coming together in a beautiful balance. So it's almost playing as though it has bigger tannins than it does, because it's of that nice balance of you've got some tannin, you've got an abundance of acid, fresh tartness, and then you have a nice prickly, peppery spice going on that all plays together across the palate at the same time, which to me creates that kind of liveliness across your palate. And
So it's interesting because, yeah, I'm tasting the tartness. So that's part of that acidity is part of why it can age.
right.
But like compared to last week's where I felt like I was likening that almost to the tartness of a sour beer.
Right.
This is very different. This feels more like an ageable Pinot. Like it feels like an ageable
Right,
Pinot.
where-
Like it feels like it's style.
The tartness in here doesn't become a sourness that's dominating the wine.
Right.
It elevates the fruit to a freshness.
Mhm.
Right. And Paul has a question, or Linda.
Yeah, no, this one's from me. Imagine that. Yeah. So when you said it was like a darker Pinot, that's kind of what hit me initially. Is that my mindset on the Pinot Noirs was that it would kind of be like on the lighter end of a red wine. But when you said it was like a darker Pinot, that was something that hit me initially. That this feels heavier. And I don't know if that's the right word, but this feels heavier than like what a normal Pinot would be.
Like fuller bodied.
Yes.
Right. I agree that there's a wonderful.
I agree. It feels, yeah. Mhm.
I agree. There's a wonderful ripeness to this wine while remaining balanced and true to Pinot Noir and not tasting like a different grape. Right.
Mhm.
So if you look at the color real quick, like I always like to put your hand under it or a piece of paper under it. You can see through. All right. You should be able to see through a Pinot Noir. But it is a very dark garnet, almost purpley color, right? That's a particularly dark extract, a dark version of Pinot. So what that would indicate in this case is we had a wonderful dry growing season where it was able to stay on the vine a long time and come to a really nice ripeness without getting a late season rain to dilute the juice. And they didn't have to rush it in any way to get to just maybe the edge of ripeness. They were able, this is a wonderful growing season where they were able to get all they wanted out of this grape. So you've got big color, you have big flavor, but you don't have too much body where it became overly ripe.
No, it's not too much body, but I agree. It feels weightier than a Pinot. Yeah. But I like the balance of it too. And then we have another comment from Robin. The nose is like a forest after it rains. That wet soil leaves.
I like it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. They're kind of so I go a lot of times with the soil quality on a Pinot Noir, where in a kind of an overly ripe Pinot, maybe something really inexpensive from a California Pinot, there'll be no soil at all. It'll all be fruit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in a well-grown Pinot, you're going to get almost always a soil component. And it can take the form of like a mushroomy wet soil, or like I like to call the other one, like she was saying, forest floor, a dry leaf litter soil.
Mm-hmm.
And that is exactly what I get on this too. And I agree. It reminds me of fall. And when I drink this and I smell it,
you're happy.
It reminds me of fall.
Yeah.
I love fall.
It's because that you planned it because the little like coldness that we're getting in the air.
That's right. We have a little,
just a little cold front, just the edge of it.
I always say it's our last day of lower humidity, but we keep getting one more, and I'm very happy.
Yeah, you need to knock on some wood so we can get some more.
There we go. So, but I love that dried leaf comment, and that's one of my favorite aspects. I love that in Pinot Noir.
So the hogs, my bottle's been open for about an hour, and the wine is still changing. Yeah.
I will say, when this guy, I'm sipping it, we've had ours open for 35 minutes. That acid that we're getting is, it's really hard to describe this other than experience with tasting, right? There are times when you have a high acid wine that you can tell just has high acid. And there are times when you have a high acid wine and you can feel it on your palate like a wound up spring, and you know it's going to evolve.
So you feel it tight.
You feel it, and that's what we call it. I call it a tight wine. This wine is still a little bit tight. It's starting to show us more flavor. It will show us more, and I can feel the difference. And I don't know how to express it better than that, other than
that's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but Jerry's a half an hour farther along than we are, and he said it's still evolving. So
I'll tell you, one of my favorite Pinot Noirs ever, and this actually does remind me of it. It was years ago. It was early in my wine education, right? So we're going way back to 2016.
I mean, It was
Yeah.
6 years ago.
That's right. So, and we opened the bottle of wine. We were doing a wine tasting that night. And I opened it and I sipped it. And it was right at, we had just popped the cork. I wanted to taste what it was like right away. And I thought, this is a lame wine because I hadn't chosen this wine. It was a collaboration of choice. And I said, this tastes like cranberry and nothing else. Linear cranberry, lame. And then 2 hours later at the wine tasting, one of my favorite Pinots ever.
That's a long time to open.
It was a long time to open, but it did open very beautifully.
So was it just very young in its?
It was young. It was even cooler growth. It was leaner than this. It didn't have the same level of ripeness that we're seeing on here. That's one of the things I love about Elk Cove is I think it's delicious through all of its evolved moments. And it's just, it is expressing Willamette in a way that is approachable to, I think, everybody. I think it's just a really great version to introduce you to some of what the flavor profiles are from the Willamette Valley, but in a very friendly way, but in a very elegant way as well.
I feel like, it's, been 35, close to 40 minutes now. I feel like I'm getting more smokiness now, especially on the back of the palate.
I totally get it. Like on the nose now, I mentioned spice early. I totally agree that I'm getting some smokiness now, which I love that in a Pinot. So,
and then Chris and Robin both agreed that it reminds them of a Cab Franc.
Because of all that nice herbiness. So we haven't even gone into that on the palate. I'm talking about baking spices as it's opening, right? I'm getting them. Is anyone getting rhubarb out there? Thinking.
I don't know that I can identify the rhubarb flavor.
Because it's kind of a green herb, a little rhubarb thing going on. Because you still have the tartness and rhubarb has acidity.
Everyone's just thinking about that, Jeff. They're not agreeing with you on the rhubarb. I'm sorry. You have no takers on that.
I got a point back from the dials.
Oh, okay.
So I'm taking that as a win.
Okay.
That's right.
You're probably like, can you believe Jeff said that?
Admittedly, we were actually pointing at Elizabeth because we also don't know what rhubarb tastes
Hold on.
like.
I've got to dial in on my phone.
Here it comes. So,
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. Now we can hear you though.
Yeah, anyway, it's very finicky and we tried to solve it with the other computer, but then you couldn't hear us. So
I'm just gonna have to go buy a new computer again.
there you go.
It's just what I love doing.
Yep. It's your favorite thing.
Dave is wondering how many people have had rhubarb. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know that I've ever had rhubarb.
Really?
So, yeah.
I don't know if it's a New England
You bought
thing.
some and you said you were going to make me something with rhubarb and then it just got old and we threw it out.
Oh, well.
That was like.
Yeah, I need to get you more rhubarb. And we just need to have the basic New England rhubarb where you just dip at the end in sugar and munch on it. And then you're like, yep, it's really simple.
Sounds really tasty and
and
healthy.
I got on Snyder's, I got a winner and a loser.
okay.
Split screen. I like how rhubarb is polarizing.
You never knew how polarizing it was.
All right. Let's jump over to the slides if you don't mind.
Okay, well.
All right. I can do it.
Okay, can you do it?
Maybe.
All right, here. Would you like to try while I try and sign in?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay.
Share
Gonna try and
screen.
sign in from the phone so I can see.
All right, let's get back over. So here we are. The wine label review. 'Tis that time, right? All right. So on this guide, if you walk into a wine store, you're getting no help. You're just looking at it. This is that time to just take a quick view of the wine label as I would read it. Oh, we've got a chat. Let me make sure it doesn't apply before we go on. Okay.
So Rachel, I like the balance of acid front and fruit back.
I like that as well. Oh, crap. Here we go. How do I get this out
You
of the way?
okay, Ben?
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, cool. All right. So we're looking at this bottle, right? You don't know this bottle at all. Nobody's helping you. You're in a store. Elk Cove Vineyards. Okay, fine. That doesn't tell you much, right? 2020. So it's fresh and new. Willamette Valley. So Willamette Valley, that's in Oregon. It's a cooler growth location. That is very good. That is very good for Pinot Noir. And it says right there, estate Pinot Noir. So we're looking at that. That's one of the things that makes me happiest to hear is when things overtly label something estate. So they control the grapes the entire time from growth to vinification. So that, to me, when I see estate Pinot, estate word on there, within the United States, it's one of the most important words you can read. On the back, they give a nice little description of it. It's from the combination of Yamhill and Carlton hillsides, hillside grown, family farmed for over a decade, for over 4 decades, 100% estate grown. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Now, something that I know that would be, I'm not saying other people wouldn't know, but you know, like as the wine guy, right? It is a cuvee from and they list it. It's from multiple areas within the Willamette, so multiple subsections. So you might see something that says from Oregon. Well, that's going to have some from within and without Willamette, and maybe all outside of Willamette. But if you, but within Willamette, there are sub AVAs. This guy is a collection of a couple of them, but they're all completely controlled by the Elk Cove family of vineyards. Let's see here. Produced and bottled. So this guy is controlled soup to nuts from this family. So what we're going to be drinking is a wonderful example of the location. It's all within Willamette. Mm-hmm. They were able to name the subsections that it's a combo of. So because it is a combination of 2 sub AVAs,
they named both of them.
It becomes Willamette in general, even though it is 2 highly sought after sub AVAs,
right?
American viticultural areas. So it's not just in general. This is giving you a lot of information that really puts points toward a good quality bottle of wine. So that's what I would take out of it. I'd feel confident moving forward, even if I saw no ratings and didn't have anyone help me.
Okay.
So the Pinot Noir, you're back. So I'm going to move this over there.
All right.
The Pinot Noir grape. Delicate skinned, nuanced grape, meaning that it does express where it comes from and how it's grown. It is the most expensive grape to grow in the world.
It's finicky.
It is finicky. It is persnickety. Origin from Burgundy, France. It is most famous from Burgundy, France, and that is the origin. The name is named after the clusters. Pinot Noir means black pine cone. All right, okay. So that is, other names, it's called Pinot Nero.
That's Italy.
In Italy,
right? Yeah.
Nice. And how about Spotburgunder?
Austria or Germany?
Good call, Germany, yes.
Okay.
And Spotburgunder means late ripening. And that is one of the hard things. Why is it so expensive, right? It has a problem with rot because it's thin-skinned. It has a problem with being water, it's late ripening. Mm-hmm. So if you don't get your harvest in before the fall rains hit, everything's ruined. So that it is a problematic grape. So it's, great risk, great reward in general.
You have to know what you're doing to grow this grape.
Yeah, you can't just mess around and throw that out there.
What grape could you just mess around and throw out there? I mean, not here, but.
Well, it's interesting because there are some of them where you will get wine, but it might not taste good, right? So
I mean, you can call it wine.
So Pinotage, right? Pinotage is a cross varietal with Pinot Noir. And their point was to make an easier growing Pinot Noir. And it will always give you grapes that you can make wine with. But if they found out, but if you don't grow it very delicately, it gives you very rough tasting wine.
So it'll grow, but it's not going to be tasty.
It's not going to be very tasty. But it will get you wine every time. Like it is a Pinot derivative that will make you wine and will not rot. But it will taste like tar if you don't do it right. So there is that.
That does not sound like advertising wine to me.
Tannat is a grape that is supposed to be a little easier to grow. And Marcelon, do you remember Marcelon? It's a crossbreed from the 60s.
Okay.
That is a cross between Cabernet Sauvignon and Grenache. We had the Uruguayan version, the Garnache.
I think I've liked
Garzon.
everything that we've had from Uruguay. So,
Garzon is amazing.
Yeah.
You just drink Garzon. This may be about Cove, but also drinkers.
Mhm.
So anyway, do they prefer cool growth, long growing seasons? They are slow to ripen.
Okay, so Oregon's good.
Yes, low humidity, because they will rot easily, and they are also, because of their thin skins, very susceptible to pests and rot.
Okay, so thin skins, then are we getting more of the flavor from the, I should probably save this for the other slide.
Well, either way, yes, it gets a lot of the flavor from the skin,
Mhm.
but it is a delicate skin,
Okay.
right? But it's intense. You see that very dark colored grape, so it packs a lot into a thin membrane.
So if you're doing that, then do you need like more grapes when you have a thin skin and you're getting the flavor from the skin? Does it take more grapes? No, it doesn't.
No,
Okay.
it's
All
just
right,
the
cool.
intensity of the flavor and color that comes out of there.
Okay.
But that thinner membrane is going to make it. So one of the things that creates, right? You have a thinner skin.
Mhm.
The number one thing that creates is lower tannin,
Oh, okay, yeah,
Right.
that makes sense.
right? And so Pinot Noir traditionally has low tannin.
Would you also get more influence from the terroir? Because I would think, since it's a thinner membrane,
Right.
more of, I know, like, more of the moisture is going to pass through. Maybe it's picked up
Yes.
more. Okay.
It absolutely expresses terroir. That's one of the reasons that people love growing it.
Okay, because it expresses
Mostly
the region.
because it expresses what the region is producing and what the winemaker behaves like with the growing and with the winemaking, for that matter. If you put a whole bunch of oak on it, you will bury this grape very quickly.
Okay.
And a lot of people, if they make poorly grown Pinot, will just bury it in oak. And it happens very easily because it is a more delicate, nuanced grape. It doesn't mean that there's not flavor. It just means that they are a little more elegant and not as overbearing.
So, but if you've grown it poorly, are they doing the oak on purpose so that it gives it more flavor?
Sometimes,
Okay.
yes. Sometimes, yes.
And sometimes they just don't know what they're doing.
Sometimes they don't know what they're doing. Sometimes that's literally what they're going for. There's one of my favorite regions in California uses a lot of younger oak on their Pinot Noir, but I do like it.
What do you like about it?
I think that the spice combines with vanilla very well. And when you use younger oak in there, a spicy vanilla note with strawberry and cherry is delicious. And so, but it's a bit more intense. It's kind of like this, but even more intense from that region.
Okay.
So it's a very flexible grape, but it's also easy to go off the rails and make something that's just kind of like, all right, well, that's wine, you know.
I mean, if you drink enough of it, it'll get you drunk. But
But
other than that,
exactly,
maybe
but
not.
a really good winemaker can run all kinds of different ways. It's a wine that can express itself in many different ways, and I think that's exciting and fun.
Yeah.
Like Chardonnay.
Yep, that's what I always say about Chardonnay.
I know,
It's exciting
because
and fun.
You love
I say that
Chardonnay.
all the time.
By the way,
It's almost my tagline.
optimal growing conditions for Pinot Noir are the same as Chardonnay, which is why they're grown hand in hand throughout the world.
I mean, just love me some Chardonnay.
All right, next slide, please. All right, so cherry, raspberry, mushroom. Not so
Okay,
much
so
here,
that-
more of earth.
But that's kind of like maybe the earthy notes we were getting.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think the mushroom really, there are mushroom qualities a lot of times, but to me, I would rather see earthy notes split into mushroom or leaves because
Okay.
it goes dry or moist earth,
Okay.
right? Clove, which we talked about,
Yeah.
hibiscus. So we talked about floral.
We did.
That's a cool version of saying what we're smelling, because I talked about blossoms and that kind of a thing.
I don't feel like I'm getting hibiscus.
No, I think it's more of a fruit blossom, but it doesn't always have to be. But
I feel
just
like
say,
I got like a rose note to it. I don't know.
I can go with
could
that.
be off.
I
on
know I have no problem with saying a rose note.
that. Okay.
But if we were to take the mushroom and call it earthiness in
Mhm.
general, right?
Mhm.
And the hibiscus and call it some floral notes because it can alter, because it is an expressive grape.
Right.
Then you get right into where we're going.
Mhm.
And smokiness is not unusual either. It's not even listed on there,
Mhm.
but it's not always there, but it is not uncommon to have a smoky Pinot Noir. especially now. But
Yeah, well,
poor
we
California.
actually just read an article on that the other day.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I read the headline and sent it to you to read the article.
Yeah, I read the
so-
article. There we go.
I went,
So-
Jeff will probably like this. He can go, he can read it.
There you go.
So,
So taste profile, dry, yes. Have I ever had a sweet Pinot Noir? No, I have not.
okay.
Yeah.
So if you have a sweet Pinot Noir, there's something wrong with it.
That would be a really odd choice.
Okay.
That is not a traditional format in any way.
Okay.
Now I've had a sparkling Pinot Noir.
Yeah, I always find
was
that
really cool.
hard to wrap my head around when there's sparkling red. And we've had some that I've really liked, but I feel so, I don't know, I feel like my palate is confused the whole time I'm drinking it.
Oh, I see that. That's fair enough. Medium body, I agree. It's usually medium, sometimes even light body. Honestly, as far right as the indicator is there, that's almost going to medium plus. And that would be
Well,
highly
yeah,
unusual.
It's definitely past that 50%.
Yeah.
It's like,
I would put it right at medium
mhm.
because there are very much as many
Middle's gonna be
medium,
right around
like
there.
there are very much as many sub mediums
Mhm.
as there are medium pluses out there.
okay.
Low tannins, definitely. Medium high acidity, absolutely. And the ABV, we're at 13.5. It kind of caps out around 13.5. So,
Yeah. So this is a higher ABV
Right.
than most.
and interesting because you're saying it caps out around 13.5. They're averaging in the Californian ones that I'm saying are overly warm growth,
Mhm.
which
Higher
would give it
ABV.
more, because you get more sugar in warm growth. So you would get higher ABV. This guy is not overly warm growth. It's just beautiful, long growing season. These guys have gotten you got all of that one. You got all of it. So they really got the maximum out of that growing season.
Is this one of the lower ABV reds? Because I feel like 11.5 is
Yes.
really low for a red.
Yes,
Okay.
it is generally.
Would you like for me to advance?
Please. All right, where is Pinot grown the most? I always like showing this because, all right, so we've got France #1, USA #2. Germany is right behind the US.
Yeah.
And people say, what? But they grow a lot of this and they grow well in Germany. I've had a couple that I really liked and then I couldn't get them because distribution stuff. We will drink a German Pinot Noir. Probably will be the next German Pinot Noir that we drink. I mean, will
I
be
was
the
like,
next Pinot Noir we drink will most likely
It will
be
the
Spot
next
Burgunder.
And the first German.
The next and
Pinot
the first.
Noir.
So look at that, Moldova.
I do like that. It's interesting. This one is so much more distributed than I think the last graph you showed us. It was like completely one country and then just a sliver of other
Yes.
things. Yes.
Yeah.
And I can't remember.
That
what
was the Montepulciano.
Oh, that's right.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, that is almost exclusively grown in Italy. There was a tiny sliver with
Of
the whole
everyone
rest of the
else.
world.
Yes. It was like completely green or something. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So look at these areas. I've never had a Moldovan Pinot, something to aspire to. Italian Pinot Nero, yes. New Zealand's, yes, they grow great stuff there, nice and cool. Australia has regions that grow fantastic. I have a couple of them in the store, Pinot Noir. Swiss, I have not had, but
But it's interesting because if you look at this graph, then you're looking at Italy and New Zealand and Australia and Switzerland grow almost the same amount. Like if you're looking
Right.
at that,
right.
I would almost look at if I didn't see that they weren't in alphabetical order, they would almost look equal. And then I mean,
Mhm.
obviously Italy's a little bit more, but yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah. And then
yeah.
Chile, I've had some nice Chile, and Chile is a chili place.
So you said the
I'm not
Swiss
trying to
one
be
was the
funny.
only one you had.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, in Swiss, yeah, Swiss,
Swiss-
and Moldova.
Oh, and Moldova. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they must not be sending those over here. Next slide, please.
Okay.
So the origin was in Burgundy, so we're right in here. So,
It's amazing, like, well, it's not amazing. I guess it's typical for how often we start off. Here's where it's from, France.
France.
And
yeah,
then we
right.
go around.
It's so true. It's like Pinot, Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Malbec, Tannat, Syrah. Grenache. No, Grenache and Garnacha, they argue about
Oh,
that.
that's right. There's
And honestly, I feel like Spain's got a really good
that's what you
argument.
said.
Yep.
Mhm.
So anyway, different day. All right. So anatomy of the grape. So we're dealing with a very intense peripheral zone out here, but it is thinner. So we do get a lot of the influence from the acids on the inside of this of the grape. So
But you did say the skin was,
it's intense but thin.
okay.
Yeah. And because of that thinness, you're right, it picks up more of what's going on in the area. The amount of sunlight, the intensity of sunlight, the amount of wind, these all affect what you're going to get out of a Pinot Noir. So where are we? We are in the northern growing latitude and in the, upper third of it. That's my little US region. So we're up here, right about here in Oregon. And I always, my favorite thing, what is this area?
First appellation in the country was in Missouri.
Yes, that's why I love to point that out. Very first American viticultural area was Augusta, Missouri.
We still need to have some of that Tallahassee wine down there.
Yeah, right. I got to get that Tallahassee.
I'm sure it's really good.
All right, so here's the Willamette. We're right in here, right along the river. Inland, so you've got a break. You've got a break from the ocean here. You're going to get some spillover of the fogs.
That's what I was just going to
Right.
ask, if the fog rolled down or if they were so far inland that they didn't get that.
They get some, yeah, especially when you go over here. And going in here. So we're dealing with the Carlton, Yamhill, and Chehalem districts. So they have a little bit on both sides. But like I said, still completely controlled in this case, all estate controlled, owned, by Elk Cove. So there it is, rolling hills. You're in a valley off of two sets of mountains to the east and west. And you've got this beautiful rolling area in between. The next page. Combination of soils are very interesting. So throughout Willamette, it was originally a seabed.
Oh.
That was then
so they have
covered.
minerals in there?
Yeah, so they have basically calcium-based minerality, right? Then covered with volcanic deposits.
Oh,
So they get some of both.
That's really cool.
Right, so the volcanic, so it's more basalt. And so you end up with a combination of high calcium and high iron, quick draining clay, and high minerality. So that's the combination you get there. And it is a very unique, wonderful location. When you add in the coolness, incredible for growing Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. Lots of sun, no rain almost at all during the growing season. High temperatures remain cool though, right? So you're like, okay, here we have this long, dry, hot, in quotes, growing season. They get all the way up to the 70s. Oh my God. What do they do with themselves? It's 75.
I mean, I would still be in a sweatshirt if we walked outside. So
And then when they get to their winter, they do get plenty of rain to replenish the vines to get them ready for the next season.
Whenever you talk about anything on the West Coast, I always think they can have like all their doors just open, no giant bugs fly in, and they're not like, then the walls aren't sweating from the humidity or anything. And I get very jealous of that. Yeah. But then, so every time I do that, I have to think, but we have humidity, which keeps us looking young. So I just, I have to be grateful for that. Yay, humidity.
Yeah, and we have a lack of state income tax that keeps us paying for
Well,
things.
that is nice too.
Right. Though optimally, I'd be a West Coast guy.
Okay, so wait, hold on. We have a couple of comments here. So from Christian Robin, so Chris said Willamette is probably my favorite single location for wine. The North Coast White Pinot is also from there, if I recall correctly.
You are totally correct. Yes. What the left coast White Pinot Noir is from there. They make some really beautiful Pinots and Chardonnays from the Left Coast Winery. I loved meeting the winemaker. By the way, I met her at a wine trade show, and she was pouring the wine herself, but it wasn't like, oh, go over to the Left Coast. It was just, she's the one who came.
That's amazing.
They're so small, right? So I walked over there. I was like, "Oh, hey, how are you?" And I just met her, and then she was talking about her wines, and then it became clear, like, she didn't even introduce herself as the winemaker and the owner. She was just talking about her wine and what she loved about it and everything, and what that vintage was like. And then I realized with the discussion, you personally made this wine, and I was so excited. Yeah, so I wine geeked out for a little bit.
Are we back to in-person trade shows now?
I think so.
Okay.
I hope so. We shall see.
That would be nice.
But there were some things where some companies realized, oh, that was really expensive, and we got away with not doing it, so they're not doing it.
Okay.
I have not received an invitation yet.
Okay.
And I like to think if it's happening.
Well,
I'm invited,
it's always in
you know.
like September, October. Well,
Yeah, it's
I
not
guess
time
August,
yet.
September, October. Yeah. So, and then Jerry agrees to some extent. I think that was about the weather.
Oh,
Jerry, you can correct me if I'm wrong. And then Chris said, "Oh, Left Coast, North Coast is a brewery that does Old Rasputin."
that is you are correct, sir. Yes. So,
Ready?
yep.
Okay. Oh, well, after the recording, I have to tell you, there was one beer that I really wanted to get in, but we can't get it in. You know which one I'm talking about?
I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So it looks just like the other picture, right? So
I mean-
they're right in the heart of it. Elk Cove and vineyards, rolling hills. Look at the trees. Absolutely gorgeous. You can see actually the river in the background. Yep.
Yep.
So founded in 1974 by Pat and Joel Campbell. Sustainably grown. We'll get into a lot more detail about
What
that.
is growing over here?
I don't know. Lavender?
Well, lavender
can't-
would be purple, right?
Yeah.
Unless the colors are,
I honestly don't know.
yeah.
Something pretty.
Yes, very.
So,
Poppies?
right. I don't know. So sustainably grown. So this is a kind of a list because we've talked about this before. Sustainably grown is a long list and not a specific list,
Okay.
right? It changes by country, by region. There is no clear cut definition of what sustainably grown means. So for these guys, for the Campbell family, this is still family run. This is what it means. So salmon safe.
They just kind of made these up, or this is Oregon?
This is the collection of things they chose to do. So
Okay.
even within Oregon,
There's okay.
no hard and fast rule for what it means.
Okay.
So they have in the vineyard options, you know, goat and longhorn cattle control the weeds and munch them up.
That's awesome.
Right.
What was the winery that the ducks run through?
That's in
it?
South Africa.
I love
Yeah,
that.
they do the running of the ducks and they
Yeah.
eat all the bugs that are in there
Yes.
and they just run through and it's exciting. And yeah.
Yes. Okay. So instead they have goats and where is it?
Goats and longhorn cattle, biodiesel on all the tractors and things, irrigation only for the first 3 years as the roots get deep enough.
Okay.
Yeah. And even the employees, right? Healthcare and a living wage paid
Yeah.
out there. So, and then in the winery, water and leaves flow back to the vineyard, not to the streams. They make sure it
Okay.
doesn't, go in there. Solar panels, 30 to 40% offset, recycled glass. And so they're doing their thing in every way they can. They care and they are working from multiple directions to be good citizens.
Yeah, they are. They even have electric car chargers for free.
Right.
So, you go and then you're like, I really need to charge my car for like 4 hours, 5 hours. I guess I have to go to a winery.
I know. Yes.
Twist my arm.
Okay. Hey, I've got 4 hours to kill. Let's drink these things. Come on.
Exactly. Yeah. It's so much better than being at like, I can't remember, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay.
So there are the founders in 1974, Pat and Joe Campbell, planting their first vine, which is pretty awesome.
This is awesome, right? It
Right.
looks like they were like the first on the whole First of all,
They were very early. Like this was not a place that people were planting grapes,
Right.
you know.
plus they started the grunge movement evidently because they
Right.
look like perfect for that. But this is fantastic. I love seeing just Pat and Joe.
Right.
Mhm.
And then this is Adam with Pat. This is their son, who's now the head winemaker. And
Because I
they
was gonna
all
say,
still
this
own
is
it.
1977, so now he's
Right.
very much an adult.
Right. So this is Adam.
Mhm.
And then he joined them and he took over winemaking in 1995. So Stanley, still family owned and run. And the name Elk Cove comes from, they had about 40 head of elk
Mhm.
that were living on and around the property when they bought it in 1974, when they were still getting up and running. And so it was named for the elk.
Do you know what they're doing there? Because it looks like they're maybe crushing grapes by hand.
It does very much.
Right?
I think that's crushing and destemming the grapes.
Mhm. By
You see it down
hand.
here. Yeah, they're doing
Right.
it by hand.
That's really cool.
Which is an interesting thing. You see, it's like a mesh thing and they just
Mhm.
run it back and forth. That way you can
Mhm.
just throw away the stems.
Right.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Look at the chair, the
Like
lattice.
the beach chair.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's great.
Ready?
Yes, please. All right, so here's Adam today. I thought we'd hear from him.
A little older.
Yeah.
Because he's like our age.
Yes.
On a clear day, you can actually see the 5 major volcanoes that make up the Cascade Mountain Range.
That's cool.
Five Mountain is a historic vineyard planted in 1978 by the Ponzi family. There were some amazing wines from this vineyard site. When we were able to purchase this vineyard, Dick and Nancy Ponzi brought us a bottle of 1983 Five Mountain Pinot Noir made
Wow.
from what was now our property. So Five Mountain makes amazing single vineyard wines, but it's also where we raised our kids and where we raise our pigs. I think our family has a real culture of cooking food, not just because it goes amazing with wine, but because it's how we show how we love and care for people in our family and beyond.
So Five Mountain Vineyard is many trade people's first experience with the Willamette Valley when they arrive for Oregon Pinot Camp.
Pinot Noirs from Five
Pinot
Mountain
cake?
have a restraint to them that I think is really beautiful, with tons of blueberry and red cherry fruit, a black pepper spiciness on the aromatics that's really indicative of this soil type.
The old bottles that we open from Elk Cove cellars, oftentimes the shining stars are from Laurelwood soils.
Well, there we go.
Okay. So who wants to go to, what did she say, Pinot Camp?
Pinot Camp. Who's going to Pinot
Mhm.
Camp?
Yep.
You all right?
Oh, hold on, wrong way.
All right.
All right.
So
Wait, let's stop.
let's
for a
stop
moment?
share. Any
Okay.
thoughts or
Well,
questions?
we are
and-
going to attempt
observations?
to, hold on, we're going to mute ourselves.
Someone mentioned
Yeah, she said,
oh.
wait, you ready?
am I not supposed to talk?
Not yet.
I don't understand what's happening.
Linda, you're packed. Let's pack for Pinot Camp. I still have an old trunk.
She said we can talk now.
Oh, yay. Oh, we can talk now. What do you want to say?
Oh yeah, someone mentioned smokiness before. I found it interesting. I took a big bite of a nacho with hot sauce on, and after I took that bite, it tasted so much better with the hot sauce. Like there was like a correlation with hot sauce and the smokiness of the wine. I thought it was pretty good.
Oh, yeah. We can't hear you, Elizabeth.
I muted myself, so that, yeah, there we go. So go ahead.
We're just talking about, so he's talking about the smokiness coming out when we were eating spicy nachos because we came home and like threw a quick dinner together. But then we switched to like creamier, sharp cheeses and then also dessert cheeses. And it completely changed the taste of the wine, and both were spectacular. Like with the spicy, it was smokier, and definitely the floral notes. At some point you were mentioning the floral notes and we were like, yes, 100%, because we were eating like spicy nachos. Then we switched to sweet, creamy, like richness. And it was like grapey. I'm sure that's not a great wine word, but like fruity, full bodied, like completely changed the taste with what we were eating, which was really like, we were like, we loved the like range
Yeah,
of
that's
what
awesome.
what it was with. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually took one sip and I was like, this tastes like rhubarb. That was the first thing I said.
Yay.
You and Jeff have actually tasted rhubarb.
That's right.
evidently.
Brian knows his shit. The stuff.
Oh, and Dave too. There you go.
There we go.
Those Northerners.
That's right. We know it.
Yep.
Pablo, what's up?
Hey, no, I did so the spicy thing. We had sushi, and
You know what? It cut out for Paul. It's funny.
It does not like
it's
Paul,
not
I
going.
don't know.
it does not like me. Can you hear me
There
now?
we go.
We just
I
heard it
gotta-
does not like me.
Right.
Now again.
Right.
We hear you, Paul.
Okay, sorry. No, but it's funny that Brian was talking about the spicy, because we had sushi, and every time I had a little bit more wasabi than I meant to grab, I was like, man, this is good, and then it paired really well. So the spiciness was fantastic with it.
Right, which for me was a little bit different because I went more like umami or something more earthiness, and I thought it really paired well with that. So, and maybe, but it's my own personal preference. But yeah, it was great.
Nice.
So I
So what
enjoyed
I'm
it.
hearing is it pairs well with spicy,
Mhm.
umami, and creamy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would expect that. The spice is an interesting thing. And I think that's because it has a kick up in the amount of fruitiness. And there, like it's talking about that, it's a little darker. It's got a little more of a fruit presence. I'm not sure how well spicy would go with something like a full Burgundian, where the fruit takes a back seat.
Mhm.
But that's the thing I love about the Willamette Valley. And Chris was saying that he loves Willamette the most, and that it's a bridge to me. And I've said this, and I've never had anybody say that I was off base on this. It's a bridge between New World and Old World.
I disagree.
Yeah, well, there you go. One person disagrees. So it's great because you get these aspects of Old World and New World together. It's beginning to move toward, if you've only had Pinot Noir from California, as you move, if you were to think, okay, if I were to go to Burgundy
Mhm.
and drink a Burgundian Rouge, right? So this is going to put you on that path. And then you'll get there and you'll say, oh, wow, well, this is a whole different.
That's true of Willamette Valley, period.
Period.
Okay.
Yes.
Not just this.
I think it's a bridge, and honestly, I might sound like a homer because I'm in the US, right? I think it's the best. Like, I love the combo of those two. I think it lands right in the sweet spot for what Pinot can be.
Yeah.
Between Old World and New World.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, let me tell you my experience. I always hated
Okay, wait. You
Pinot
cut
Noir.
out. So hold on. I'm going to mute
Okay.
us a moment.
Okay,
What?
can you hear me now? Hello? For some reason, it's recording. I don't know why.
I think you're good. You can keep going.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. I always hated Pinot Noirs. When we go to a wine tasting, I always knew which one was the Pinot because I hated it. It had green pepper in it. It was just awful. And then my husband told me one time, a couple years ago, that I really do like Pinots. And I disagreed. And he said, no, you love French Burgundy. And that was the difference. It was the difference in the Old World Pinot versus the New World. And I was not necessarily looking forward to having a Pinot tonight, but I love this. I love this. This is the first American Pinot that I have liked. So thank you for that. I can't hear. You're muted.
Oh, you muted everybody else.
Did I mute everybody?
No,
we got it.
you're good. No, you can't mute everyone, but yeah,
Yes.
we muted so that we somehow when we mute, we can hear you better. So,
Right.
because
Thank
otherwise
you.
it cuts out. But yeah, thank you so much thank you for choosing to come tonight, even though it was something that you thought you would hate. Because
So,
So-
and yeah, I honestly like Pinots. There are many Pinots that are, and I drink a lot of wine, and you guys know this. Pinot is not one of my instant favorites, right? But I do love Willamette, and I love certain areas in California, and you know, but you know, Pinot is often something I appreciate more than I love.
That's the only one like that for you, right?
No,
No, okay.
No.
All right,
there are a couple of them.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, so I get where you're coming from, where, you know, the Pinot is, you know, depending on how it's made, it can be a little challenging, but I love when it's done well. You know what makes me happy is that indicates to me that I succeeded. I wanted to grab a Pinot that really did express Willamette, but was also instantly likable.
Yeah, and old world,
Yeah.
kind of some notes of old
Mhm.
world at
Yeah.
least, yeah.
Yeah, which to me, that's expressing Willamette.
Okay,
So, you know, the fact that it's giving a little both, that
Mhm.
is Willamette to me. And I think it does a great job expressing, hey, if you like this, explore Willamette,
okay.
you know, so.
Mhm.
And the Dow Smith Biles.
Just real quick, I was gonna say, I totally agree with your comment on bridging new world and old world. I think it's exactly why I like this so much, because I tend to be an old world wine drinker, and I think that a lot of West Coast stuff for me is really hit or miss, except for really like Pacific Northwest and specifically Willamette Valley. I think is like unequivocally across the board. I just gravitate to. This is, I think, at least the third Elk Cove wine that we've had, and every single one is excellent. And I think this is like a great bang for your buck Pinot. I really like this.
Yeah. Also, real quick, Rachel and David also have their hands up, but it blends into the paint on their walls. So just a heads up so that you notice that.
And also, I don't really want to hear from Dave. Hopefully,
Well,
hopefully it's Rachel.
So you were muted. He said, thank you, Robin, for telling us, because no, we didn't, you guys just gotta change your hand to like yellow or something, so.
Be a Simpsons character. It's fine.
Unfortunately, the question is not wine related. It's Willamette Valley related. And I know that Willamette Valley is equally known for hops. And I was just wondering if there's any place that is equally known in the world for both grape growing and hop growing.
Would it be Germany? Or do they not do hops in their beer?
No, they do.
Okay.
They do, but the place I would go to is Washington State. Washington State is also.
Oh, so it's still the
across
Pacific
border.
Northwest.
Yeah, Pacific Northwest is amazing for hops and for grapes.
Huh.
Grapes and hops prefer a very similar environment.
Low humidity.
Low humidity, lots and lots of sunshine, but not too hot, and definitely low humidity, low pests.
Okay.
Because hops will also rot out just like grapes.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is probably part of the reason, because hops is the first cousin to marijuana. So I would guess
But
that's why
they
they're
can grow that so well there too.
they're competing
Sure.
for all three of those crops at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that great question. No,
Yeah.
I love that he threw in the other side of the house.
That's right. You're
And
bringing in the
that's
other 50-50. All right. Going to the beer side. I like it. All right.
Any other questions, comments before we go over the ratings?
All right.
Okay.
I can put in a 2 cents. You can stay in Willamette Valley and drink good Pinots all day till your teeth turn blue. And then get up the next day and do the same thing. It's just a wonderful place to visit. 30 minutes south of Portland. Very easy to grab a car and go down, and really would have a great time. Washington State, quite different, but terrific wines and more varietals in Washington State, but just two great areas for wine.
Yeah, I would definitely say we've done several wine trips, and the Willamette Valley trip was probably one of the best that we've done. I didn't think I liked Pinot Noirs until I went there, but it was completely different. And then once we got there, it was just so much more complexity and you know, I always thought of Pinot Noirs as being watered down versions of red wine, but in Willamette Valley, they have this great structure and body, and it was just, and great people too. That was the other big thing that Brenda and I noticed when we went, is that, you know, you'd go to tasting rooms and it'd be the winemakers serving you and talking to you about the wines and stuff like that. It was fabulous.
Nice. Well,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's wonderful. And I mean, that's what you were saying about the winemaker coming out.
Oh, she
here
was so
to-
wonderful. I had no idea.
Right. And I
was
mean,
like, oh, wait.
when we're going to tastings too, we're going either Orlando or, for the most part, trade
Right.
shows,
Right.
Orlando or Tampa.
Right.
So really, like, if you look at the state of Florida, yes, Orlando is really big, Tampa is really big, but it's not one of our nationwide big cities. That would be Miami, and we're
Right.
not traveling down to Miami for it, and yet the winemaker came, which is
Right.
pretty impressive.
No,
actually.
it was really, really great. I was so glad that we sold a lot of her wine.
Yeah.
Hey, you see that report that you saw? We're those guys up in North Florida that are bright spot. So
There you go.
all right,
Okay. would you
let's
ready
do
to
it.
Go over the,
Yep.
all right,
So
here we go.
wine ratings. So I always love to go through this just real quick. There are wine ratings on quality of the wine, and then there is an aspect which should measure in to your enjoyment level, but it doesn't eclipse necessarily the appreciation level, right? So like I've always said, or like I've said multiple times, there are certain grapes that I appreciate more than I enjoy, right? So this is not one of them, you know, tonight, but because I happen to
Not
enjoy
tonight,
and
but
appreciate
Pinot
it.
Noir,
But
sometimes
some
you're just-
Pinots
yeah.
I appreciate more than I enjoy,
Okay.
right?
So some you're comparing to, this is what a Pinot
Should be and can
should be in California or whatever.
right? Or Burgundy
Right.
or that, you know. And
Right, and then some you're like, do I just like it?
do I just enjoy it, right?
Mhm.
And it all comes together.
Yeah.
But like you say, at least even if it's not your grape, right? Then
I just hear Austin Powers.
Right.
It's not my bad, baby.
if it's not your grape, like say, take a step back to just say, but was it well vinted? Did it have any obvious off flavors, that kind of a thing?
Mhm.
And better yet, if it is your grape, like tamp it down to understand, you know, like to be like, okay,
Right.
is it just something you adore, or is it also well grown and presented and indicative of the region and that kind of a thing? So your enthusiasm or lack thereof, it should be an aspect of the tasting, but not necessarily the only thing you're thinking about. Also, when we described the general flavors and scents of the grape, did it measure up? And when I described what happens from that region, did it apply?
Right.
And so
Yeah.
it's an amalgamation of a lot of different things, which I get.
It is,
But-
because I think I had my enthusiasm for the fact that I just like tart things last week
Mhm.
affected my score.
Right. And
Right.
once again, that's fine if it does it by a point or two, no big deal, you know. And then call into that also the skewing of the wine rating system, which this isn't the only wine rating system, but it is the most popular wine rating system, where they basically say they go from 50 to 100 rather than 1 to 10, or, you know, 1 to 50 or 1 to 100. So anyway, in the end, 90 being an outstanding, this guy is regularly rated as an outstanding wine, or is it a very good wine? And there's nothing wrong with saying that's a very good wine,
Right.
right?
Right.
Or you say, this is a classic wine. I adore this wine. This is fantastic.
Mhm.
You know what? That's kind of the bonus points of you're saying this is well made. It does match up, and I enjoy
Very
it.
few are getting that 95 to 100. That's really like
That's rarefied
rare.
air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Well, you know, we've been married 24 years.
It's
so.
been a while. Okay, so let's see. We have Julie for Pinot. Julie says 93, but on a scale of red wines in general, 90, because she prefers
Right,
like
because she
heavier
prefers the
varieties,
heavier
bigger
ones,
white.
right.
So versatile and delicious. Brian says 96.
There you go. And that does
Yeah.
make sense with their preference points. I
Mhm.
get it.
Chris and Robin 92. Great Pinot, especially for the price.
Good call.
92.5. All of them. I don't see John, but maybe he's just not in camera. So, Laura, Linda, and Brenda, and Oh my God, Brian is a red wine
Hey,
drinker.
we've been-
That's funny.
We've been
So
working on them.
Linda said 89 plus.
like it.
Tucker's 89. Not much smell to us. Okay, so not a lot of bouquet for them. Good with food, not a strong flavor to us.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think that's more Pinot.
It's Pinot,
not
yeah.
as right.
Mhm.
And then Rachel 92, David 90,
Mhm.
and then the Hogsets are 92, 93, so they're in that 92.5
Right.
range as well. And then Julie is very happy that Brian is finally coming over to the red side of wine. And Chris and Robin, great food wine. Yeah. So would you like for me to stop the share for a moment?
Sure.
Or okay. Yeah.
All right.
So for me, I actually like Pinot. So I prefer, like Julie, like the bigger, bolder, more like challenging red wines. I really like to. And when I say more challenging, I'm getting over to I feel like I'm more and more as I go through my wine journey, attracted to those old world wines like Chris and Robin, yeah. And I feel like initially I would have hated them, like back in, let's say 2099, I would have been like, yeah.
Oh yeah, sure.
Right. So, but for me, I really like this as a Pinot. I would go 92.5 also.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I think it's it doesn't feel weak bodied, which is kind of like, I agree. I think Brenda said it. No, Linda said it, that it was watered down. Often Pinot felt like watered down wine. Oh, I do see John there now. Yeah.
John is in the house.
Yeah. But yeah, sometimes I feel like Pinots can be just watered down cabs. And I feel like this does have complexity, and it evolved, which was really fun to taste through the evolution. So 92.5 for me.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm very happy that everyone liked it and enjoyed it. I get that with big cab and red blend lovers, Pinot's a different beast, right? And that's fine. There was no judgment zone in there. I join you. I think Dave needs a daiquiri, but
oh yes, he does.
And
Rachel's with him some.
Rachel,
sometimes she's off, enjoying herself without Dave.
But that is the thing. Pinot Noir is a red wine, but it is a very different beast, right? It's it is its own thing, and it owns it.
Okay,
so
right.
I'll go there, and it sometimes. And now Dave's gone. So, but
Taylor's closer to the camera.
that is my thing with it too. I really enjoy this wine. I think it's delightful. I'm really glad you guys liked it. Makes me happy. I thought it would be a winner. By the way, they make this single vineyard higher end version called Clay Court.
Okay.
And it's literally grown. Yeah, I know. The Dials have had it. It is outstanding.
Okay.
It is grown literally where they have, it's so much clay, they have clay tennis courts there.
Okay, that's what I was picturing when you said Clay Court. So
that's why it's named for it.
So, and then look, Deb is a 90 and Jim is a 91 for ratings. So we've got
Nice.
a 90.5 for them from them.
Loving it.
Yep.
So that makes me happy. I really felt like I wanted to do Pinot, but I wanted it to be like an easy winner, right?
Yeah.
And I think this guy's got it all going on. When I was introduced the Cove line 4 years ago or so now, to me, it was just instantly, this is really good Pinot.
Yeah.
And it is very much Willamette Valley. Stylistically on point, delicious, flexible for food pairings. I think we covered all of it tonight.
So
It's a winner.
I'm just worried that we didn't save enough to have with dinner. Oh, we did not save enough to have.
Oh no! You know
There's
what?
one glass left.
I know a place, and it's 3.5 miles away.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I
So-
kept looking at it going, how did I just turn it to see, but.
Let's thank our sources,
All right,
and then we can introduce next week's wine.
okay. Yeah, before I say that though, I do, because I signed in on my phone, I do appreciate that Abby was a part of this tasting. Just wanna throw that out there so
Are you
it's
gonna do
on the
that from now
recording.
on?
I am gonna do that from now on so that Abby is part of our tasting. All right, let me.
All right. is next. All right. So thank you to Wine Folly always. Those guys are amazing. 750.com, Wikipedia, around the world in 80 harvests. California Winery Advisor, and which was giving me information about Oregon.
Sure.
And
That's interesting.
Yeah.
California was giving you information on Oregon.
They were, but they know
All right.
good. They know good Pinot.
Okay.
And Elk Cove vineyards themselves, which makes total sense. So,
Sure.
all right. So next week, it is going to be a juxtaposition as we talked about crossovers toward the old world,
Okay.
because we are going to
Are we going to Burgundy?
the new world. All right. We're going to Paso Robles, California. This is a very new world red blend.
Okay.
Right. So it is big, it's rich, it's
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
cool.
so it's very so we're talking about a bridge. All right, this is my California hug.
Okay,
All right,
so
you guys
this
have been
is
with
not
me.
a bridge to the old world. This is very California.
This is very Californian, very American in styling. It's my California hug, Paso Robles. Dow is a wonderful winemaker. This is their pessimist red blend. Jeb Dunnick 92, Robert Parker 92. Flexible pairings, but big, chicken in a mole sauce is going to be the lightest thing you can get away
Yeah,
with.
because I'm so surprised to see chicken and steak on the same food.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what? New world. Bam.
Well, I mean, I can get with the steak and the mushrooms, but that's
Drunken steak with
interesting.
shiitake mushrooms,
Mhm.
grilled mushrooms with a lentil stew.
That sounds good.
But like I said, I always try to get fun, spare ribs, steak, beef, they're all going to work.
Any kind of red meat will work with this?
Yes.
Okay, so why does the chicken work with it? Because the mole?
The mole sauce.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Let me look at the chat. Drunken steak. What I was wondering that too. Is it a marinade?
It's a marinade that includes bourbon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh. All right, cool. Wait, I'm gonna stop the share on this.
So great growing region. We'll have some fun talking about Paso Robles.
I don't know if it was Chris or Robin. Drunken steak is you drink a lot of wine while cooking.
Drink a lot while cooking. You know what? That's how I cook.
Yeah, any steak can be drunken steak if you work hard enough.
So that is what we're doing.
Yep.
Let me top you off.
Well, no, because I want to save a little. There's literally only one glass left. in there.
There's literally bottles left at the store. I will go get you one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Julie's just nodding her head to
Yeah.
that. And that's it.
That's it.
All right. Here
You
we
know
go.
what? Yeah, Pinot Noir that we finished off the bottle during the tasting.
Yes. Yep. Sounds
That
good.
is a high rating.
Mhm.
That's high praise. All right.
Cheers,
Thank you guys
everyone.
very much.
Thank you for next week. We won't have tech issues. It'll all be cleared up by next week.
That's right.
Fingers crossed. Cheers.